How's everybody doing today? Did you actually come for yoga or did you hear me to come for me to just talk for an hour about nothing? Because I'm good at that. Have you
Hmm.
noticed?
For both.
But I was actually, so I was thinking about what it's like. A lot of the people, the kind of opening line I was thinking about as kind of a joke, not joke, but kind of trying to make light of the fact when you live on a steady diet of threat and loss, what's a mind to do, right? How do you react to that? So obviously, most of us are, mind body solutions is about transforming trauma, loss, and disability, right? So everyone, when you live with versions of disability, visible or invisible, you're constantly processing um, various threats. And at any one slice of time, there seems to be more. And usually they're health related, but they're also like even as simple as planning to go, if you want to go on a trip or you're even planning how to get to the doctor's appointment or like everything that we talk about in terms of managing, right? That's what the mind does. The mind decides to pop in and manage shit, right? Or if you've got, and it's kind of like the steady diet we live on, right? There's kind of, and if you have ongoing health issues, then they're sometimes louder and sometimes not. And then I don't know if anyone can sense that there's kind of an onslaught in the public sphere. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of threatened by the state of the world a little bit right now. Um, and and I think there's a serious threat to our humanity about how we're reacting to what's going on, at least in this country. Like who do we choose to be? So I'm driving in a traffic jam and four lanes are going into one. And this was one of those examples where you're watching stuff like this every day. And there's this one guy, and I'm gonna kind of be a little bit judgmental here. He's in a Porsche SUV. Okay. And there's four lanes going into one, and most of humanity, right? Most of humanity is going every other one, right? So we're kind, everyone's kind of being like what you would do if you're rationally solving a thing. This guy decides to be right up on the bumper and let nobody in. Not one person, like just the kind of guy that if you're ever to have like you're such an ass kind of road rage type of thing, this guy would have been triggering it all over the world. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you're just sitting there and I could sit there and try to tell the nice story about he had a couple kids in the car, right? Maybe one of them really need to get home. But no matter what, like to use the traffic jam as a metaphor, right? Right? That person is choosing to be very self-absorbed and value their time. And I bring up the Porsche SUV because I think he might be quite privileged, right? And white. And in his like between 40 and 55. So he's an ass, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right. And he's choosing to prioritize his well-being over being part of the collective. And if we're honest, on some level, I mean, our whole culture is under threat, right? And um, we get to choose how we respond, right? And so all of us switching gears off of, and maybe he did have a reason to be such an ass. I doubt it. I think he just thought he was more important. But maybe, I could go to sleep at night thinking that's it and try to find some bullshit compassionate story about trying to say, blah, 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 right? And, that makes sense. I mean, it might make me feel a little bit better, might, whatever. but then I wake up, we're out, all of us on this call have a lot of things going on too, right? And I could cash out my life this morning, and I know you could, and all the things you have to manage and all the things you have to do, and the things that are have been lost. And that's one way to tell the story, right? It's a way, it's not untrue. Those are all the things I could cash out about my life are all true, right? And it's the case that I don't know if you can tell out my window. You can't tell as much, but it's at the fall is at its height. The leaves are like there's a whole bunch of really beautiful things happening at the same time. Now, one of the mistakes to indulge in the beauty of what's around me is, and by the way, beauty is one of the best sensations I know out there. As I get older and older, it's like, and if you let it enter your whole nervous system, it's transformative, but it's not a bypass, right? You don't get to like, oh, I don't care about that ass, like, yesterday that's like, and he was doing it in front of his kids, right? Like he's being that big of an ass. And I hope, chances are the kids in the car are being really squirmish because they probably were old enough to recognize what an ass, or they're role modeling about how they're going to be, right? And a lot of our culture is feeling under threat. So a lot of, and isn't it funny when some people are under threat, they actually take joy or pleasure or dark pleasure in causing pain for other people, right? It's like, and there's a whole bunch of people that are, as there's a threat to our humanity right now, especially in this country, it's like, and how we're going to react to tough stuff. Um, there's a reaction to the desire to want more is one of the reactions to threat, right? Scarcity. And there's a whole bunch of things at play here. Can you see how I'm jumping around? And then going back to our particular case, are you going to focus on what's lost? Are you going to, and there's so what's a mind to do? Because no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to get up and I have a list of things to do and things I can work on, but there's no deep solution to my situation, like for many of you, right? Right. And so your mind can manage some of it. You can get up and adult and do some things and get things done. It makes you feel a little bit better, right? But what are you choosing for your nervous system? What's the best way? Because the mind is going to perceive, and I think this is how the mind finds grounding, right? The mind grounds by going towards the more negative description, usually. It's much easier to see what's wrong than what's right. So you're not really going to change that, or at least when I try to overtly, willfully only see what's positive, I end up wanting to throw up in my own mouth, right? Because I can tell my words are hollow, right? That I need to go deeper than my mind. So exhale. So one of the things I don't like about some of the yogic landscape is they try to pretend or say something that I think is just not true, which is if you just, this is me being a metaphorical again, if you just breathe better, your life will get better. No, if you actually breathe and ground and inhabit maybe the present, right? But remember, there is no such, I don't think there's such thing as a present. The present's always obliterating, it's always going away. And present has all the past in it too. It's part of how our consciousness works. So to try to tell you that all of a sudden everything will just feel better if you're in the present, no. The yogi's commitment is to truthfulness. And what's actually true is all the losses each of us have absorbed, all the threats we feel projected into the future have from the past, that those are true and it's beautiful outside. People that live in a lot of chronic pain end up hearing only the pain. I'm having a lot of chronic pain now. It is the season for most of us. That's not the only thing that's true. The yoga commitment to truthfulness. Keep exhaling. Feel the inhale. Yoga is not a bypass. I can tell you the truth always sets you free. It doesn't always. There's a lot of descriptions. There's a lot of stories going. That's the truth. And you know what's true? The inhale still goes in. The inhale still goes out. Your feet are still on the floor, on your foot pedals. You're still on your sitting bones or lying flat. I don't know if anyone's lying flat today, right? The separation between you and your experience that mentally causes a lot of us suffering also allows for simultaneity, for the truthful realization that there are multiple stories. Don't let your nervous system only follow your mind. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. There's a perpetual and unceasing emptiness in your experience. This is part of the existential paradox. What I love about asana is that emptiness can also be full. People try to fill their emptiness by acquiring more. That's insatiable. If I just had more money. Can you imagine? That must be what Elon Musk wakes up every morning. If I just controlled outer space and had all the satellites and or Jeff Bezos, if I just folly. If I just let nobody in, I'll get home 2 minutes faster, 5 minutes faster. If I just feel the space behind you, the space between your shoulders and your ears. Let the empty space inside your head, inside your skull, and outside of your skull realize that they're already in balance. The empty part of you is the integrated part, the balanced part. How you move your body isn't balanced. The space itself is. You get to transform your experience by just gently lifting your chest, helping direct the current from your seat of consciousness more efficiently out through your limbs. If you want to prove it to yourself, drop your sternum and watch the withdrawal from your limbs. Lift the sternum with the emptiness of your lips together, teeth slightly apart. Inhale as you do that. You get to be empty or full, and your body gets to show you how. And even when you get full, you still exhale, and there's the background emptiness. But you can keep today in asana, your chest lifted as you exhale. Don't collapse on exhale. Learn how the exhale, if you drop your shoulder blades, exhale from the back ribs, that your exhale can actually support the transformation of the lifted chest. Choosing at the hub of the wheel before the mind tells the narrative. Your space is empty and full. Don't let your mind be the only storyteller. It's an important storyteller. but it's not the only one. Let go of your day, prepare your mind to do yoga. Good. And then release, take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum, but no, you're innovating, you're bringing energy to your spine. When you do this action, when you lift your sternum and drop your chin, even a little bit, you're bringing energy through your spine and making connections through your subtle nervous system. Yogis call it the nadis. It's not a better way to live. It's in part of what's accessible to you when you need it. Good. And then release. If you live your whole day like that, with in Jada Bandha, you've got you people are gonna think you have a stick up your ass, right? It's not an either or, right? The guy that didn't let anyone in last night, he doesn't even know he's living in fear. He's afraid. He's indulging in self-interest. He's afraid. In the United States, we have a president that's incredibly insecure, right? He's the little kid that wants to strike back, start moving around. He is projecting inadequacy everywhere and thinking the solution is more. What's going to be so? Let's go back to our situation here, right? What's the what do we do? What's the solution to our perpetual story, right? So I'm just opening my spine. I know that if I can downshift out of my mind and more into my spine, it's going to feel better, right? Potentially for hours, right? Instead of letting my mind be too heavy, if I start to take up space, that's why we're moving around here. Because I'm telling you, there's some important space in the base of your spine, right? Right? That you want lightness in your low back, especially if you sit a lot. I'm telling you that even though my body hurts, if I don't take up space, right? Because often when we're in chronic pain, we want to take up less space. I'm taking my legs wide now. So when you're in a lot of pain, when you're in really acute pain, you take up less space. You kind of have to. That's how you withstand the storm, right? But if that becomes a pattern, and unfortunately it becomes a pattern for too many people living with chronic conditions, neurological deficit, all those things. So I got my legs wide. So now because I don't get to walk, I'm amazed when I would teach traditional students. I'm amazed at how few people, when I would always do this as a test when I was teaching traditional students. I'd say, take your legs 3.5 to 4 feet wide. And so I got my knees pretty far out. I should wear my glasses, so I can see you still over there. Um, take my knees 3.5 to 4, but tell people to take their legs 3.5 to 4 feet wide, and almost in 90% of the students only take their feet about 2 feet wide. And I used to always crack a joke, especially when we were in person. I'd say, yeah, I get it. As adults, we're trained not to spread our legs in public, right? We don't, in adults, don't actually take their legs wide very often. No. So I take my legs wide when I start my practice to open my groin, but also to have my legs in a space they're usually not. And even if even if that's tiny, even if that's like moving your knees only a couple inches apart or making one knee away from the other knee, right? It doesn't matter how big, how far your legs are apart. It matters that you realize that the variation is the elixir, right? That the mind will constantly narrow, right? The mind constantly narrows to feel control, right? So that's why in public, it's weird. When you're in public spaces in a yoga class, you kind of, if you take your legs too far wide, 3.5 to 4 feet wide, you feel vulnerable in a weird way, right? And it's like, well, no, that's just baggage, right? What's the, well, how would a solution, so like I used to, I used to encourage people, and so here's one of the thought experiments I would do to people. So hopefully your legs are wide, just feel that and lean forward on your thighs or on your desk and push your elbows down and lengthen your spine. I would encourage them to go to like in their workplace, I'd say just stand there a couple times when you're waiting for someone and stand there with your legs 3 feet wide. And they go, oh no, I could never do that. That's just wrong, right? I'd even encourage them to close their office door sometimes or leave it open and lay flat on the floor in their office. Oh no, everyone would think I was crazy. And I'm kind of like thinking, do you know you're effing crazy not to? Do you know that if you don't lay flat on your floor in the middle of work, chances are your boss is going to bug you more? If you don't take up your own space, but we solve social dynamic by getting smaller. So I'm rocking back and forth, right? So I'm doing some things. I'm pulling forward and back on my wheelchair. So I'm like I'm moving a little bit back and forth, but I'm just like making sure. And I'm watching my spine move a little bit and watching the change in sensation in my legs. I'm just taking up space, right? I'm just going, wait, I kind of like that. Minds will give up space. That's how they survive. That's why they can't lead. Don't let your mind be your only voice, right? You gotta let the empty space in your nervous system show you freedom, no matter what's going on. There's freedom, not just loss, in the emptiness of consciousness. What? You're talking shit again, right? I'm gonna take my arm wide and this is just a take up space practice, you know, and even if that means you can't move your arm, but you're twisting a little bit, take up some space, right? I'm twiddling my fingers up here and I can't twiggle my toes on the opposite foot, but damn it, I kind of can energetically, right? I'm gonna like try to feel from top to bottom. I'm going to change gravity just a little bit and I'm going to twiddle, right? And connect this hand to my opposite foot. And at the same time, I'm going to make the connection by lengthening my spine, hitting down through my sitting bones. This is what standing poses do. They connect the outer edges of the appendices through the spine, right? So I could tell you, instead of just, if I twiddle my fingers up here and feel it in the air, right? Right? And I don't, what a yogi starts to realize is, wait, if I do that and I want to feel it in my sitting bones into the opposite leg, I need to ground my shoulder blade. I need to do some things, carry it through my spine. And as you start to do the things to make sure the energy is connecting through your spine, the yoga pose writes itself. WRITES and RIGHTS, right? When you follow connection, the yoga, then you start to realize, damn, those asana yogis, they're actually showing you how to make connection between different parts of your body. Good in that. And you just thought they're teaching you yoga poses. I don't think so. right? So now I'm lifting up again. I'm making sure that my mind doesn't cover up the empty space in my nervous system. So when the mind gets like smaller, it takes the empty space and makes a fortress, right? So I'm doing this, I'm making a little, like I'm putting a little goggle here, right? My body has the empty space. And this is when I go just in my mind to deal with stuff, this energy that is really powerful in the mind is the least alive part of my consciousness. So when I clench my jaw and do the stress reaction, I'm solving my life's problems in the short term by gravitating towards the ceasing. My least alive part of my consciousness starts to do the managing. If I can, instead of letting that be, this is an important story, right? Or the frontal cortex, right? That guy actually thought his life would be improved if he was home 5 minutes sooner, right? Ridiculous. Instead, if I keep the empty space in my body and use my body to transform, this is the most alive part. And we find out that the energy, the subtle energy that comes through the spine, if I take up space and use the emptiness that's gets small in my head, if I make sure that empty space is realized in my body too, then my life starts to deal with what's going on, my living part, right? There's a great line that I love in a YouTube song. It's on Joshua Tree. It's one of the back um songs, but it's like it's about a mother that's trying to take care of her kids. And the line is she walks to let go. She moves her body to try to let go. But wait, if I move my body, it hurts. Yeah, but that's not the only thing. So I'm doing dog pose now. Yeah, I'm having a lot of elbow pain, right? And so my right elbow is just, oh, it's not happy, right? But that's not the only thing that's happening in my body. If I'm thinking that, I'm not being a truthful yogi, right? I'm going to inhabit everything, not pretend my elbow doesn't hurt. My elbow freaking hurts, right? But I'm going to make sure I'm not letting the pain in my elbow stop me from getting more equal amount of air into my left lung. So I don't know what your story is in your body right now. Find the places using dog pose, find the places that you're not inhabiting with life that you can. It's not going to change the threat, it's not going to change the loss. It's going to be truthful. The mind isn't so truthful. Lift under the collarbones, broaden the collarbones, hit down through your sitting bones, stretch out to the top of your head. As you do, notice the shoulder blade wants to drop more. Now make sure you're rolling the inner upper thigh slightly in and down and pressing from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel. Breathe. Good. And then release. So one of the really simple, powerful lines I heard from Vikas Angar was that bodies don't lie, minds do. Deal with that one. It's true, right? Lifting up again. Remember, now I'm hoping that all of you, as you're moving not just to feel the relief for your mind of getting stretched out a little bit, but you're also being aware that you're moving your empty space. And then you're going to go back over the back of your chair, right? And you're bringing the empty space more towards the sky, right? In the center of your chest. And when you lift the center of your chest a little bit, then that spreads the empty space in the subtle nervous system all through the limbs. And then you bring it skyward instead of letting your mind shrink the same space and be in a stress response. So now I'm going to sit after feeling the lift in the chest. I'm going to put my arms at my sides. I'm going to be in Tadasana more, sit up on your sitting bones, right? Ground your legs, right? I'm going to bring my knees in a little closer to each other because I want to feel Tadasana, right? Because in a way, Tadasana, although it's super complicated, is a simplifying pose. It tries to get the body to inhabit more directly around the spinal energy, right? So if I were teaching a standing person, one of the things that I'd tell them to do would be bring the tailbone forward and roll the inner upper thigh back, right? It's really hard action to do, but we're trying to get the energy to be more in line. So I'm bringing my legs slightly together so I feel that inner corridor. I've been talking about that inner corridor. I'm catching it with my chest. But as my mind follows this transformation, I have to stay in my feet. And I also have to drop my shoulder blades, balance my head over my neck, and let in the whole room, but from the sturdiness of the shape that is surrounding my spine. I'm trying to surround my spine with the best container I can have. And I'm going to breathe. This core midline, appreciation of the midline is in every single pose. There's so many, and then release. There's so many ways in which Tadasana is in every single pose. So I'm going to take up more space again, take your legs wide. Remember, I'm watching that the empty space can be grounded in Tadasana and spread out more in more full-bodied poses. But what matters more is that the core channels finding expression, right? And your empty space, that your mind will fill in with suffering, that your empty space travels through your life force first before it's interpreted by your mind, right? Turns out that I would say, at least in this country, and I think around the world, right? The one thing we're sharing in common is fear, for sure. That's not the one thing, but that's the thing that's making a lot of people react, right? So I'm going back and forth doing that, getting my legs more involved in the standing pose. You know, so I've been teaching standing poses these last periods of time. So I'm pushing down on the back leg, I'm grounding down on the front leg. So I'm getting the grounding of a standing pose. Because one of the things that, and in traditional poses, it's really hard because people's hips are tight, right? And they don't know how to connect their torso with their legs. So it's really important that as we sit in wheelchairs or sitting, standing poses, it's really important that you make dynamic the relationship between your spine and your legs. The way I'm trying to do it now, and I've been teaching this for the last few weeks, I'm trying to get grounding in my legs. So I'm pressing here, I'm pressing here. I'm making sure that space between my low abdomen and my femur bones is dynamic. So I'm lifting it up a little bit. I'm catching it with my chest, but I'm starting from grounding. I'm starting from the ceasing, right? The ceasing is really, if you think about ceasing, this seems really weird. It scares the shit out of the mind in our life force, but it's actually super grounded energy, right? So I'm finding the grounding and I'm lifting my dynamic energy out of the grounding. I'm catching it with my chest, right? And I'm getting and I'm gonna go drop a little bit and come back into it. So I get this as an action, a pumping action where I'm getting, and this is what you're trying to get traditional students to do too, is you're trying to get them to realize the dynamic action between their spine and their legs, right? And then release. Now you got course. If you only do that one way, you'd actually go around in circles the entire day. Kind of a joke, kind of not, right? I'm going to do it the other way. So I'm trying to get this dynamic, and however you do it, right? I'm trying to give you the hints of pressing down, getting earth, bone to bone contact with your forearm and your thigh. I'm trying to get you to get grounding energy down through the back like femur bone. So when the lower abdomen lifts, it doesn't just lift this way, it spreads energy down through the legs. That's why in standing poses for traditional students, one of the best subtle adjustments you can give them is to give them a very light adjustment on their tailbone, because they actually start to get that there's dynamic connection, and it's, you lose a whole bunch of energy between your femur bones and your low abdomen, right? And you don't realize it. So we're trying to get this, and I'm doing that pumping action again, trying to find the dynamic energy that you and I have a harder time finding because we're not standing in standing poses. So we're trying to manufacture a dynamic connection between the upper and lower parts of our body. Because have you noticed, if I sit all day at my computer and I drop my sternum, not only is there pain ends up in the low back from sitting too much, but it ends up making the legs dull, right? And when your legs are dull, your mind's going to gravitate towards less life force. Shit. So now I'm going to go this way again, getting that dynamic energy, and you can kind of see why. And I think it's maybe the least important part. Well, that's just me being biased, right? But I can just add the arm and make it a standing full standing pose, right? But what I want you to do is as your arm gets wide, bring it back to the midline again, get the dynamic energy, stay in your midline, keep the shoulder blade in, keep the bottom shoulder blade tucked in, because you're trying to keep the energy in your spine and lift. And as you lift this arm, let the shadow pass through your legs of it moving. Rotate the belly slightly up towards the ceiling, lengthen out the top of your head, and as you do, hit down through your sitting bones and down through your heels. Move prana, not just with your mind, with your spine. Good, and then release. The good thing is that the prana is already moving. It's whether your mind allows it as nourishment. So it's not that the prana is not already moving down through your legs, it's that you're not realizing the full benefit of it because your mind blocks it. So now we're going to go the other way. And it turns out when you can get your body more congruent with the movement of prana, then your mind will actually get even more energy from it. The prana isn't wasted. Right? So I'm getting that dynamic energy here, grounding from the ceasing, using my bones to help me find the grounding, get the dynamic energy, catch it with my spine. And then as I take this bottom shoulder blade in, this shoulder blade stays back towards the midline because I'm trying to preserve this. When I move my arm, I feel it through my whole body. This is when like Trikonasana in a traditional student can get full. You're looking for the dynamic inward connection between your legs and your spine and expressing it out through your arms. Breathe and then release. Oh, so we've been had the legs wide for a while. So I'm going to bring them back in together. And right away, I'm going to bring my femur bones together and I'm going to catch it. I'm not going to just let it go. I'm going to catch it in Tadasana. I'm going to catch the exertion and the expansion and land it through the midline. So if you're properly doing generally the Iyengar method, you're coming back to Tadasana between poses and even between sides because you're trying to catch the expansion back through the midline, right? All right, so if you can take both legs wide, arms wide. And if you want to take your legs wide, what the hell? Go ahead, right? So I want to do that again because I'm liking taking up space. I'm liking the base of my spine to be in a triangle through my knees and now my arms. And so I feel the space from my spine and making sure my shoulder blades stay together a little bit. So it goes out through my fingertips more. And then there's a triangle. My space of my spine is going out through each knee, down to each heel. If you're able to stand, you could probably just do this standing up in space too. right? We're trying to make it dynamic. Good, and then release. Take your arms down. I'm gonna rock a little bit. I'm having some stuff where my nervous system isn't liking all of this, right? Because it's got some stuff. I'm sure you have some stuff, right? I'm trying to not go, oh no, right? I'm gonna rock a little bit, and make sure that energy doesn't get too heavy, move it around a little bit, right? There's a lot of stuff happening all the time. So I'm going to take my right elbow and put it across my body, but onto a table, right? Or if you want to put it on your opposite knee, go ahead. And if you can't do any of that, just do a little bit of a turn, right? But find a way to ground. So once you turn, oh, see there, I'm visiting my elbow right now. The tension in my elbow is like, there it is, right? And my hands begin to tingle a little bit. So I'm going to make sure I spread my palm. So I'm just like giving you those real-time adjustments because any yogi doesn't ignore pain, figures out how to modulate it. So now I'm going to lift, so I'm across my body. I'm going to lift my sternum, right? I'm going to twist a little bit. What you don't know is you're kind of in, um, um, we're kind of in revolved after what we've just done. We're kind of in revolved Parsvakonasana, right? And so even though my legs are straight ahead, I'm remembering having my legs wide, right? So I'm twisting my spine and I'm revolving my spine and I'm continuing. Now, this you got to be careful here. Don't do this too hard. I'm having my left leg extend out straight, even though it's straight ahead, out off to the side, right? I like, Claire, that your hand went up like you're asking a question, but it's actually because your hand's on the screen. This is good, right? And so you're revolving and opening. But what I want you to do, rather than thinking about trying too hard to stretch out your legs, I want you to keep your legs wide, your energy open on your legs. What? How can I keep my energy open if my physical body isn't wide? And then release. So here's the doubting mind, right? Well, that doesn't make sense. How do I keep things open and extended? Well, my body's not open and extended. And if you do want me to do that, how do I do that without furrowing my brows and trying to make something happen with my diaphragm? How do I not use my will? And I say, well, if you just try to manage everything by furrowing your brow and using your will, right? You're going to be shitty to yourself and other people. You have to actually use the part of your nervous system that's calm and empty and open and happy, and you do it anyway. Oh, but then how can I believe it's actually happening? Well, you could actually believe the things that your practice is telling you, that prana can actually move through your spine and through your limbs without it having to be physically manifested. What? That must be your imagination. No, it's spinal energy being connected. Is this making any sense to anybody? A little bit? Am I out there? Angelique, you're my one to check in with. You're having a pain day again, huh, Angelique?
Yes, yes, I am.
All
But
right.
yes, spinal energy being connected does make sense to me.
But I'm going to make you feel self-conscious. You may be having a pain day and maybe it's making your hair be a little wild, but it looks great.
Thank you.
You got to find the things that are great, right? They're all going on at once.
Mm,
Holy shit, they're all going on at once. Other way. So you don't know what revolved Parsvakonasana. It's a shitty hard pose, right? You feel trapped in this pose, and I haven't even done it standing. I've only done it sitting, right? I'm going to start to turn, twist, right? But I'm now the thing is how do I get my legs to actually be extending? This one kind of straight, my right leg going straight out back, right? And I don't want just to be in my frontal cortex. I want to be dynamic through my midline and not trapped by where my legs physically are. But I'm not going to try to overcome it. I'm going to soften my nervous system, open the base of my spine, extend in multiple directions at once because life is freaking cool. It's amazingly dynamic. I'm going to lift under my collarbones. I'm going to get more in it. Joe, lift under your collarbones for God's sakes. There. For God's sakes, Joe. I miss yelling at Joe. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve a little bit more. But as you revolve a little bit more, go through your legs more. Wait, what do you mean go through your legs more? Just go through your legs more and shut up and do it. Broaden across the base of across your low back. Don't just do it with your will. Don't be dumb and squeeze. Don't just squeeze. Do it without just squeezing. Good, and then release. How do you transcendently use prana or utilize prana? By staying open while you're being willful. What? How do you be open while being willful? Are you going to ask a question?
So I have a question. That move really, really helped the ataxia in my right arm when I went towards the right with the left arm.
Mhm.
But then when you said to not be gripping, I was wondering if there was a reason why a soft fist might be preferable to an open hand.
Well, so,
Because it felt like the open hand let me breathe
so do
better.
that. Do that. So that's where you got to follow, everyone's got to follow your own practice. So the instructions I'm doing are coming off my own body. And what I like about that question, Ellie, is that what you do ultimately, even when you're practicing in a class, you have to let your intuition be what guides what instructions you can and can't do, right? And so what I wanted you to, when I say like, don't only grip to remain open, I'm giving you a lot of hard instruction. Parsvakonasana and revolve Parsvakonasana is a really hard pose. Okay, it's really demanding. And the tendency is for a student to squeeze it really hard to be successful. Okay, now you have to squeeze the pose to make that pose work. Okay, however, if you only squeeze the pose, you're making the pose 3 times harder. So
It's
you have to
actually the
get,
only pose I'm able to do because it feels like it requires the least effort for me
so
because
that's
I'm giving slack to my right side
so
and I'm
that's awesome.
giving, yeah.
Follow
But
the
I feel like
intuition.
it's less effort when the hand's open, if that makes
So
sense.
it totally does. So
Okay.
that means there's an insight there for all your poses. And I'm trying to teach it all for everybody generally too, is that you got to follow that. And if you see something that like makes it go in that sensation of when something's becoming more yogic is the sensation of yoga. And so what each pose is doing is trying to help you. Laura Halsey decides to come in the class. If that's Laura Halsey, she's in trouble. If it's not Laura Halsey, she's going to be okay.
It's
Because if
not.
it's not, okay, she's lucky. Okay. All right. So, because I would have really ridden her on this one, right? So let's do this again. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to go across. Well, actually, let's do a more open space pose. So, which is somewhat similar. I shouldn't be teaching this hard right before the end, but what the hell, right? All right. So now, instead of being in a tight box, right? I'm going to do something I've been doing a lot. I'm going to lean over and be in a more open box, right? I'm going to be in a more open box, right? Where I'm not as crumped up. What's weird about learning freedom here is that you're having to learn that when you're in a tighter box like this, you want to use your will at first, but your will's never going to win. So you have to like let in Shavasana, the empty space, and then use your will. Here, it's a little bit easier not to use your will too much because there's more space here, right? But you still need to get the intensity, right? So I'm dropping my bottom shoulder blade. I'm grabbing my knee. This is becoming dynamic. So this would just be more like Parsvakonasana, where it's not revolved, right? And so this pose, this would be the beginning of it, and then it would go over your head, but you might just want to stay here, right? You could, if you want to go over your head, you can. And so when you go this way, the expansion's here, right? When you go over your head, you're submerging your upper arm into your midline, right? And that's very dynamic. This is more fun though. This takes a lot more will, right, to go this way, right? So we're opening and turning, and still, even though there's a lot of effort here, you're trying to find the openness and the freedom. Good, and then release. One of the ways, paradoxically, to find freedom is to open your back body. What? Open your back body, soften your jaw, soften the inside of your mouth. Let your emptiness, that your mind is trying to manipulate your body and squeezing it out of it, you have to let your openness back into the pose. And when your mind's engaged in things that are threatening your balance and your effort, the mind tends to squeeze the emptiness. And you're wanting to learn how to squeeze and be open at the same time. So now I'm going the other way. This is more open than what we were like down like this, right? Now we're more open, right? So I'm enjoying the overt freedom of this. If you go over your head, you're submerging your arm back into the midline, which is going to cause stress other places, right? So however you want to do it right now is fine, right? But you're wanting to keep, and as you turn your spine, you want it to light your legs, not steal from your legs. That's really tricky because when you will it and you try to like turn your spine, you're going to cut off your legs, right? You need to open and turn to include your legs. Good. And then release. Come on up. Move around again, because I find Parsvakonasana actually, it's called side flank pose. Um, I find, um, I feel like in Parsvakonasana, especially revolved one, you never usually do revolve first. When it's revolved, I feel like I'm in a real small room. I'm forced into a really small space, and I'm trying to learn how to find freedom in a real small space, which means my mind can't be the only one doing it, right? So I'm gonna move around a little bit. I'm trying to open it back up because we've just been in a small room, and as we go to ending the class, you've been in a small room. You want Shavasana to be both small in your body and expansive in support, right? So the empty space in your body, so you can just take your arm up quick if you want to. The empty space in your body is the doorway to more nourishment. That's part of why Shavasana always has body instructions to help it get expansive. There's a paradox if you start thinking about it. The way into Shavasana, right, is to show you the boundary of your body and the empty space that's simultaneous in your body, right? So when I wake up and I can either cast my die into descriptions that are more negative and about threat and the loss, right? Or I can know that those are all true and I can have my full nervous system be the ones that works through the rest of my day, not just my mind's take on it. I'm not denying what's true. My elbow, my sitting bone, my tailbone, it still hurts. right? That's still true. And in fact, some of this practice has irritated both. But what it's done is shown my mind that there's freedom, even though there's a external force that's making me get smaller, right? But my nervous system reminds my mind that it's not the only truth, right? So now I'm going to start to let the chair in, right? Let the support right away in Shavasana. It's very helpful to soften the organs of perception so you can let more in. So the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth, relax the base of the tongue. And notice when you do that, there's a dropping towards the earth. The drop, one of the things you learn in Shavasana, is the drop also gives you freedom. It's not just a loss, right? So when I start to drop, I start to get the instruction away. There's space between the skin on my face and my skull. If I let my cheekbones deflate, my lips together, teeth slightly apart, my cave becomes a mouth. I relax my belly to relax my throat. This softens my shoulder blades. In the empty part, I can then let in the support of the chair better. And it comes in. There's empty space and hum in your ankles. In the emptiness, you're not actually alone. There's a hum there. It's in your knees and your hips, shoulders, your elbows, your wrists. When you get that, it should naturally adjust your head on your neck. Shavasana is in every pose. Mind just gets caught up in the drama of the poses. Feel your breath. Start to bring yourself back. 'Cause, 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 When you're ready, open your eyes and close them again if you want to. You gotta open them. That's the demand of being a yogi. One of the things that I think that yoga reveals on levels that go beyond thoughts and that beyond, it always amazes me after all these years. I still keep getting seemingly at times deeper hits of it, is that there's hope in the emptiness. That's not just loss, right? um it's the part of my consciousness that precedes, so the mind is gonna not see that emptiness as hope, right? Because it doesn't know how to give. The mind can't give emptiness life. It can only give it judgment, right? And that's a superpower, right? That's not a bad thing, but when I realize the space, the living, the empty space is both, it's got a living manifestation in my body. My mind has to do what it does with it. Then suddenly there's more space in the world too, right? And I don't have to wear the stain of that driver's reaction, right? He doesn't even quite know it's a stain. He thinks he's taking care of his stuff, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. But if I can have this before the threats that are all around too, not just out in your life, but as you manage your life, it's like, and that for me, I found that it's only my body that can show me the depth of this truth. I can't, in my nervous system, I can't get there as truthfully, which is my mind, right? I need to feel the fact that the home goes through me. And that's the universal part of human experience that our minds are so far away from. And what's really cool to me is when you get more connected to that, what I think is likely a more fundamental um, processing of what it is to be alive and dying at the same time. Um, it makes you more compassionate, makes you less want to be violent, makes you not cut drivers off, makes you think, my God, there's freedom here. There's no magic freedom in those 5 minutes I might save, or 10 minutes I might save, right? And our culture is really afraid. Like all of us could tell a story every morning about how afraid to be of all the things they're managing. It's not the only truth. It's a truth. And there's hope and resilience in the emptiness and the opportunity to fill it. All right, everybody. Namaste. The spirit in me bows the spirit in you.